Hello and welcome back to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And Swizz is mute, apparently.
Dude, Swizz, you should have at least had a sign saying, and I'm Swizz.
He does have a sign. It's you'll love it, Chris. You'll absolutely love it. Ready? He has a sign.
Oh, wow. 3 seconds into the pod, and I'm already getting bursted. Thanks, guys. That really made me feel great.
Welcome. We are trying a slightly new platform. So if you do put out the chat here, we're going to try and highlight a few things and use, was it StreamYard, like a few other people, but getting the hang of it is pretty much where we're going to go with. But speaking of getting a hang of things, you should know where we're at. SC Insider 100 on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, all the audio platforms as well. Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, you name it. And on the YouTube, Chris.
Yeah, well, I think this is live on YouTube, so good luck. Again, we've had like 5 minutes practice.
Follow.
We don't know what we're doing. This is oh, hello, Swizz.
Swizz is in the chat.
Whose line is it anyway, where the points don't matter? But yeah, no, it's all good.
We're trying it out. We're playing Chris's favorite game called Just the Tip, just to see how it feels. And that is pretty much the start of it.
Game.
It is an absolute mess. If you are like me and you've got 16 players and you've got a couple of rookies that you want to trade but kind of have to hold it, it's a very, very, very interesting scenario. And I think that probably leads us into the first part of today, boys, is starting with the issue. And the issue is I'm not a Sicily owner. If the tribunal is what Swizz is saying, and it's very factual. Now, I don't own him. It happened against Brisbane with McCluggage, my boy's suitcase. And even then, I felt like it was very hard done by. Like, Chris, where are you at with the whole, do you know, do you not know? Like, is it, who's your daddy? Like, is it a roulette table? Like, how you feel?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Sicily, in terms of the tackle, like in the AFL, you're saying, like, I'm pretty, so look, I suppose we will touch on that. So in regards to dangerous tackles in the AFL, I think it's absolute garbage because the thing with tackles is I would say that I reckon 99% of the time that these dangerous tackles happen, they're not thinking to themselves, I'm tackling this person to hurt the person. What they're trying to do is get the ball dispossessed or win a free kick. That's what they're trying to do. And a lot of these techniques that cause this to happen are pinning the arms and taking them to ground. They've been trained this for most of their professional and amateur careers, and now they've all of a sudden got to make a split-second decision to not pin the arms, which then gives them the ability to get rid of the ball, which is completely against the fabric of what they're trying to do by making a tackle. And like, it's only an effective tackle if they don't get a handball away, right? So if they get a handball away and it goes to another player, it's not considered an effective tackle. So the entire point of making an effective tackle is to cause a stoppage or to turn the ball over. So the only
win
way
a
to
free
do
kick
that
and then
is,
get suspended for 3 weeks anyway.
And for Sicily to win a free kick, so this is where it gets murky, right? Like, I understand that Hugh McCluggage got knocked out. I understand that action was a sling action, but what else? What he was trying to argue in the tribunal. Sorry, was it the tribunal that he went to, or the appeals?
He
board,
went double
or
down.
it was
Tribunal and then appeals. Yep.
He's trying to argue. Okay, so in my situation, what else am I supposed to do? Like, he's had to dive to even make contact with McCluggage because he was going to get out of his grasp. So he's dived, made contact, and used his own body weight to bring him to ground, put him over the top of himself. Like, was there anything else that he could have done to A, win the ball for his club, or B, let him go? Like, you're basically saying, running the risk of, do you just let the guy not get tackled? Like, it's just like I understand with bumping, you've got a choice. You've got a choice not to bump, you can tackle. But now you can tackle, but you've got to choose to tackle so that it doesn't necessarily win you the ball or you gain advantage from the tackle. Like, what they're asking, I think, is just too far. I think they've just gone that little bit over the line.
And people are milking it. It's an absolute mess. And like anything, if there's a free kick in it,
then
people are going to exploit it. I mean, Ginnivan's already studying it, apparently spent 2 weeks straight, hasn't slept yet, trying to work out how to get the next best free kick. It's stupid.
Please don't. Lockie Neal, mate, has done it twice already now.
Oh, he's rubbed out a couple of people on and off the field.
I've seen where his legs have been tangled or whatever, but he's like in slow motion, being like, "Oh, it's a dangerous tackle. I'm not going to get rid of the ball. I'm just going to clonk my head on the ground and be like, oh, and get a free kick."
Oh,
That
is it
is
slow
actually
motion
happening.
like Austin Powers? And he's like, no, wait, stop. Just slow motion falling. Oh, I hit my head suspended. And then you got Count Dracula, the new CEO.
Get out the way.
The new CEO is like, oh, no, it's not confusing. And I was like, mate, calm down. You've been in footy for 5 minutes. Well, obviously he's been in footy for longer, but we're going to say 5 minutes because fuck that guy. And then comes out, it's like, oh, we'll review it at the end of the season. I'm like, wonderful. You patch something together like the subvest originally, like everything else, an absolute patch job. But look, before we go, we are going to quick shout out here. Alexander's saying evening here. Brian, howdy, gents. This is how we're going now. Sean, shout outs left, right, and center. I am me is pretty much, I think, the greatest showman. I am me. Hey, hey, hey. Shout out on the comments if you do get there as well. He is him. Or is that? Oh, no, I am me. That's not a non-binary thing, is it?
No.
Could be. I don't want to get it wrong. Don't want to get it wrong. But before we move on, I have news, boys, and you might have heard a little whispers around it. An old sporting injury. No, an old sporting injury. They're calling me Max King because I need to have a full shoulder reconstruction.
Oh,
from an old. Yeah, dude, I'm messed up. Yeah, I had an MRI last week.
You could barely lift the poker table last week.
Yeah, remember poker? Yeah, right. I was like, so
I mean, it was heavy, Grant.
It is a heavy table. It's a 10-seater, fully well supported table. No, so the issue, apparently old injury. So, and I was getting along fine. Maybe it kind of deteriorated or I re-aggravated it without really knowing. Multiple labral tears, and I've got a 6x8 mil fragment actually sitting in the socket. So the bone can't actually get into the socket there because I got fragments actually blocking it. So what did it say? You are what? You are not aligned with your camera. You are not center of the screen. You are not good at this. Is that messed up? Yeah.
I like the Swiss is just here for comedic relief.
Pretty much. There he is there, Swizzy boys. So
I suppose what we're doing with Sicily, I guess, at the end of the day, for those that you don't own, do you, Ben?
No.
So there is a problem with this moving forward. So the first thing I'll say is there is only from next week, from this week, I guess, there's only 11 rounds left.
10 including this week.
10 including this week. So if he's missing 4 of those weeks, then you really only have him for the back end of the year, the 6 weeks. So there is complete merit in being able to trade him.
3 weeks. You've already missed him for one last week.
Oh yeah, you've already missed him for one. Yeah.
3.
So you gain him for 7 weeks. So there's 2 things. First of all, is he now a clear D1? So that's the first question that you need to ask yourself. So because you need to establish a baseline of what he's going to be scoring on the run home. Now, if his role does continue, and what we saw when Blank moved to that sort of lockdown defender and freed up Sicily to play the interceptor role, he's gone 134, 134, 172, 136. Now that's actually the number one, like that 4-round average would put him as the number 1 Supercoach player in the entire game, right? So yes, it would. For
even over Dunkley
average.
Over Dunkley?
I would say so. What's Dunkley over those 4 weeks?
Like 140 odd?
No, not that high. It'd be close though. But yeah, like I think the 172 would have him over that in terms of average. He's probably what's his averaging? 141 or 142? Probably more. Actually, I think it's more like 145 over the 4 weeks.
Dunkley is more over 5. Over 3 weeks, it was Sicily for 147 over 3.
Yep.
Dunkley's the highest over 5 rounds. Yep.
Yeah. So look, that means over those 7 weeks, if that role continues, then you're losing that. But yeah, what are you replacing it with in the meantime? And that's the question. So for me, for my team, I'm going towards having an extra premium on the bench, so that I can cover him in the short term and hold him over the long term. And effectively know what, those people that trade him out, they're not going to trade him back in another 3 weeks, right? Like I think that's long gone. Most people don't have the trades to be able to do that. So it's either you're trading him out to not get him back, or you are holding him and you're covering him in a way. The problem is, like, if you don't have that team and then you're fielding like a Chincotta, or you're fielding like a a Melican or something like that over the next few weeks, then that's a lot of points that you're losing. And I don't think you can really do that in that case. You want to be able to try and field at least, say, a 90 average over the time. Maybe, holding someone like a Sheasel or holding someone like a Jay-Z or something like that. I think they might only get you an 85 or 90, but that might be enough to bridge the gap. And then you can push those guys to your Pine and have them as a loophole option. So when they do ton, you can obviously pick them up. So I think that there's merit in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing to note as well, if Sicily goes 115 over those 7 rounds, then that's 805 points. So if you get someone for this week onwards going at 100, then that would be 1,000 points, right? Simple maths. So you need to bridge 195 points. Now, if Sin Cotta was your D6 7, someone that you could use as cover to bridge the gap for those 3 weeks, then basically he would have to score 195 points over those 3 weeks in order to balance out. Now, Sin Cotta's not playing this week, which then makes it a little bit more difficult because if he is your cover guy and if you're playing 18 this week, then it's probably not actually going to be a big issue. So you'd probably just wipe that one off and read between the lines. It's not that far off, though. Essentially 195 points over 3 rounds to also save a trade to possibly to save you 3 donuts at the end of the year, depending on the situation. Because at the moment, we've been fairly lucky in years gone by where, unless you're Abdul, the Scodfather with the Hewitt scenario, but sometimes you get quite lucky and you might avoid a donut or weeks of donuts. So that's the issue. That one trade could save you 2 to 3 weeks of a donut and then pick you up 200 to 300 points. So that's the balancing act that we talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this highlights the issue that we have in defense generally. So the Dreamers have said, trading Sicily, but to who really? Because you've got most people have these other 3, which is probably the key 3. So Dacos, Dawson, Stewart, right? So most people have them. If you don't have them, I'm completely fine. Bang, straight up trading Sicily to that guy, right? That would be the 100% move that I would do. And then Sinclair, a lot of people have. And then it's that last spot, right? So Lloyd, bit of an unknown, was moved to the wing last week, then played more halfback role this week. Hasn't scored amazing, but, he's all right there. Luke Ryan dropped off a map. So anyone that's playing this week as a defender that has top 10 potential, in my opinion, they're all shit. So can you cover this week? Can you get 18 this week? If so, then that's probably beneficial. And then I would look to a round 15 guy. So I'd be looking at Doherty next week, or the one I'm looking at is Dan Houston. I think that he's primed for a good back end surge after I think he had a 147 last week, I want to say, after a 47 the week before. But he's at a good price point. So there are guys that you could potentially get, but none really for this week that I would recommend, unless you guys have anyone outside those top 3. So,
well, I think if you still have a Zeeble or a Sheasel in your forward line, then the easiest scenario for me would be to get like Clayton Oliver. If you have some kind of, or a defensive mid, maybe you have a day or someone that's not performing in that midfield, there's a bit of a swing. I'd be like, for me, Clayton Oliver, again, there's a lot of people that either A, held him, so they're not actually relevant for rank overall because they would have slid. They can't afford him, or they probably don't have the trades. So there is a small market for people that actually either have Sicily and can actually move, or they have trades or cash to actually make it happen. Now, if you are one of those people, then I think it's highly worthwhile to try and get one of these premiums like Clary, who's a proven performer. Even I was talking Catter as well, talking about maybe going Petrarca over Clayton Oliver. But I think it's worth doing that because anyone that's able to will get on Clary. And if he continues to go 125, 130 or whatever he's capable of, there'll be a small margin of people that will actually get a real good push from it. Lloyd only. He's already got Lloyd.
So, I don't like Lloyd. I can't do it anymore after seeing the last.
That's why I kept bloody Ridley. Because that 6th spot was so really up and open where I was like, do I really gain much by going another crappy D6?
So my thing with Clary is that I would if there was no question marks over him, but there's another question mark that he might not even play this week.
Fuck off, Jordan Keast. Sorry, boys. He held Clary and is now 1.8k in rank and he's climbed in rankings.
Nice. So I don't know if you know, but Clary's now got a hand issue apparently as well. So there was some more reports today that he may not play, even though he's got. Apparently, the coach said that he's got 2 tests to make this week, and there's no guarantee that he's going to play.
If they're English and maths, he's in trouble. If it's English and maths, he's in trouble.
He's come up with another injury, apparently, with his hand. So now he's got the infected blister, his hand, and his hamstring. Look, I think he does play, probably. I think Clary himself came out and today and said, oh, look, I think I'm going to be playing. I think they played Geelong this week, which I think they will need Clary against Geelong. But, yeah, that question mark says to me, do you really want to jump on him with Sicily? I mean, he might play, but what are the chances that he's going to just come out and average 125 like he has for the first, 11 rounds of the season or whatever it may be? So there's a question mark there. And I don't know if I would want to bank all of that onto Clary. He's got a 138 break even. I don't know. That's a rough seat. I prefer to hold for a week. It would have been great if Clary came back, last week or the week before or whatever, for King's birthday. We got to see him for a week, see what he's like, and then can jump on him with confidence the week after. But now that I don't have any real confidence going that way, I really don't like Petrarca knowing how they treated him last year, where they put him for stints forward for large portions of the year, where they're just like, okay, we're going to play you forward for 4 or 5 games. And I know he can score as a forward too, don't get me wrong, but his consistency drops off the map. So he can still have those big spike games. But yeah, I don't really love that Petrarca play, but he's an option. They're just too expensive, those guys. I mean, I'd probably prefer going to say it's a Wrong or a Brayshaw, but I mean, they've also got their question marks too. So who's the right answer? If you're really trading out, I'd try, depending on your team structure, obviously, I'm trying right now any way that I can to try and get that 23rd premium is the way that I'm going. So if you can split Sicily into 2 premiums and get, say, a Houston and a Harry Himmelberg or something like that, or maybe a Houston and a Keys, or a Doherty and a Keys or something like that, and try and be able to get one to your bench, I think that's a great way to go. I saw a good team yesterday that had Day at D8 and it actually had 5. Yeah. So Day at M9 and 5 at M10. So they had the opportunity to swing them both forward and back and cover each line. But that's something that I wouldn't mind. You could do the same with Sheasel. There are Jay-Z, etc. So all of these guys that we probably already have in our teams, there's also options to do that. But I think splitting that money up is one way that you could go to maximize your points and to maximize cover for the rest of the year as well.
Interesting. So also with the whole Clary scenario, because we will move on to more structured areas, because we got a little carried away with the introduction. So in the last 2 years, Clary's only missed 5 times. That obviously, not many, and Petrarca's played those. 31 games with Clary's Petrarca at an average of 112.9, and then 4 games without him at 129.3. And he also averages, I think it's 15.8 or 6 points more in wins over losses. So that comes in advantage for Petrarca anyway for the back end of the year if they have a soft draw. He's one that usually really cashes in a little bit more there as well. But we do need to touch on a little bit of strategy first, as far as a lot of people are trying to, is it worth trading out somebody in order to just field 18 this week? So the pros and cons around strategy, rookies, and then obviously the last part will be tossing up between premiums. Should I get this person? Should I get this person, etc.? And I think they're probably the main 3 considerations that people are getting at the moment. The first one for me is with strategy. Now, I'm going to say the first one is also make sure look at how many upgrades you have, because sometimes I feel people are so busy chasing the rabbit that they actually forget, like, oh, crap, I actually still need 1 upgrade and I need to get, let's say, Humphreys to a premium. And then you go, oh, I've actually now got not many trades, no cash, and I now need to use 2 trades just to upgrade him, when maybe I should have gone an Anderson or a Walsh or someone at 550 or 500K and not go for the 650K rabbit.
So this happened today. I got a message from Binger, and he wanted me to evaluate his trades. And he's got what most people have, but he's got the Humphrey and he's got the Fife, and he's got he's got a lot of cash. He's got the Briggs, etc., that he can use. But his idea was, I want to get Track and Oliver, but then he's left with Fife at F6. And so for me, that's just a big no-go zone. Like, I hate that idea. Like, you're sacrificing points on your other parts of your field to get the ultra premiums. You just got to go with the budget options. I mean,
value.
Petrarca and Oliver aren't that much better than say an Anderson or a Sarong or something like that, then let's call it somewhere between 5 to 10 points per game. But the difference between say Fife and Sheasel or Jay-Z, who are averaging upwards of 90, like Fife could average you 65 for the rest of the year. Like he was that bad on the weekend. Sorry, buddy, he really was. And I don't see a world where he averages more than 75. So, if you're going to be having him permanently at, say, an F6 position, I'd almost rather have Humphrey. You got to have, I think if you're having Fife or you've got him on your team, he's got to be on your bench. Yep. He's your bench or his cover. He's not a fieldable option. So chasing value at this point of the year to complete your team is super important. Trade value is also important. So you don't really, if you can avoid it, you want to complete your team with about 3 trades left. I actually am going to go a little bit less than that. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. But part of my reason is I'm actually spending 2 extra trades to get that extra 23rd premium because I think it's going to be valuable for me with points for the rest of the season.
Yep.
So,
and the other strategy with all the aggressive suspensions as well, I actually saw someone make a best 22 team of people getting suspended for tackles. And I said, what? No room for an eye gouger in there, guys? Like no Brisbane Lion player in that team.
Nice. But Zorko jab.
Yeah, Zorko jab. Anyway, so the idea
grabbing
is that
someone like, say, Darcy Cameron, for example, who's probably going to average anywhere between 95 to 105, and we really don't know what we're going to get yet, I guess, out of him. But he's only 460k. I would much rather get him, push Fife out, and then get, say, a Sarong or a Brayshaw or
Walsh or Mills. Walsh and Mills are dropping too, and you have a little bit of time. Humphrey to Walsh will only be 100k.
Walsh should have been on 120 this week. He had the best game of the season, in my opinion. He had the best role that he's had all year. He basically played as a primary mid. I think he had about 70 to 75% CBAs. If they won, which is important, Cripps played the best game of the year for him as well. So you go, okay, if their midfield and Shearer played very, very well too, might I add. So those 3 who managed that midfield and they were primary movers. So could Voss look at that and go, okay, this is my best midfield moving forward. Everyone else can fit around these 3 that we're going to use primarily. Hopefully, because that would mean that Walsh will all of a sudden become a 110 averaging mid again because he was brilliant. And I think that can see him slide up. So at his price, I think Walsh is severely unders right now, and I'd be jumping on him for sure. Obviously, the buy doesn't help. You'd need to miss him this week, but if you can somehow avoid, you get your. And this is something I will say.
That's where Humphreys comes into it.
This is true. After this week, you must have your completed side, so you can do it before the start of round 16. But you will be competing with teams that are all completely filled out. So you will lose ranks dramatically if you are not completely finished upgrading your side by the end of round 16, by the end of round 15, start of round 16.
Yep. And that also ties in with this round in particular, because it is the bad buy round. If you need a warm body on field to get that 18, which ties into our enders there. So for me, like, a Fletcher or someone, like a strategy of going early, if you need a warm body on field to free up cash to get your upgrade, you do that. Because if they don't play, then you're not relying on a rookie anyway. You should be full primo from next week, and maybe you just lose that bench cover in case you need them for the 1 week that you might need them. So that's what it's about, trying to free up cash in general.
I flew a bit early, and I went with Jack Buller last week, thinking that I would get 2 scores out of him. Probably not going to, but I don't really mind the option because what it allowed me to do was to ensure that I got the right team at the end of it, because there really wasn't any other playing 102k guys for last week. So if he plays this week, it'll be a bonus, but I'm not expecting anything out of him. But he just allowed me to do everything else. I don't care if he doesn't play for the rest of the season, because I'm actually wanting to have a loophole in his position because of the way that I'm structuring my 23rd premium. So there's merit to bringing guys in that aren't even playing. I know a lot of people have your defensive forward options. There's a 102k West Coast loophole rookie called Dewar, I want to say. You could look at bringing him in, and then he could free up, say, a Sheasel from your defense to flip forward, etc. Or Jay-Z or a Himmelberg if you've got any of those guys. So there is some options in terms of bringing in rookies that aren't necessarily going to play this week that will impact you for the rest of the season too. So there's options for sure.
Yep. Yep. I do agree.
But you wouldn't surely Fletcher's not playing much football for the rest of the year. Like, he played very well, but I
No,
can't
I
see
think
him
he's
playing.
in. I think he's in.
He's not best 22, bro.
I think he is.
Not
Watching him live,
Okay.
and we've just gone straight to rookies. Now, for me, it's all about Daniel Rich, etc. as well. So Sharp is easily replaceable on the same wing, and he's extremely fit. So Fletcher, for me, he even said he was a little bit gassed. Yes, he played like lower percent of time on ground, like 64%. I think it is time on ground. I thought he looked quite composed to the level. Now, he did a lot of the hard running work that you don't really see on TV, where he was on the wing quite a bit and working hard both ways to get in good areas. And he missed one shot. First one, he actually looked composed, running into goal, shoulder check, took a bounce, kicked a goal. Second one, he could have taken an extra step. He did a lot of the 1%ers, but again, that position though, it's the Walmart Callahan. So it's not the
That's
best
what I
Supercoach
mean.
role, and he can
Not
be
even that.
interchangeable. He can be interchangeable, but I thought
Well,
he did do well
McCluggage comes
enough.
back. There's one mid spot gone, and he played basically wing, right? So Rich comes back, pushes Wilmot back up to the wing, and then that's gone. So
Oh yeah, no,
Rich
it's
is
all
coming
reliant
back.
on yeah, I know that, but as in for the next, then the other part going with it is that the Lions do have a really soft draw as well. So do I think he'll be there probably season end? Probably not, but will he give you, I reckon, a stretch of maybe 4 games on top of this? I think he can.
Yeah, but I suppose the other thing is I don't think you're bringing him in to play for the rest of the season. Is what I'm saying. So if you're looking at, say, a Fletcher
Cover
as
for the
a
whole year?
long-term
No.
cover, yeah, I think he will get next week, and I think he might get maybe 2 or 3 games after that. But there's no chance that he's there for the season.
No, but strategy would be if Fletcher does happen to, when they play a softer run of games, maybe they continue him playing. He might,
Nah,
if
I
he
don't
gets
think so.
4, well, I think if he gets 4 games though,
Brisbane need to make top 4, buddy.
Yeah,
they need
will.
top 2 actually, to be completely honest.
It's fine. They can smack Port Adelaide. That's fine. No stress there. Port Adelaide sucks. But
Sure, buddy.
if he
But
does
they
get
can't play
4 in a row,
so they're screwed if they have to go to Melbourne.
that's why I said Port Adelaide. We have a better chance over there. But no, you could almost, like, if you have lots of friendliness with injuries, you could almost go him down, Fife up if you needed to later. Look, I don't know. What other options? I need a warm body. I need a warm body on field. So for me, if he plays, I'm probably getting him just because I need that warm body to make my 18.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, I think that there's a lot worse that you can do in regards to. But I would say the same thing about Dev Robertson, by the way, who I think's probably got more job security in the side than Fletcher. But it's not that great that it's like, oh, it's worth spending 220K on. Like, he doesn't have the job security of, say, any West Coast player that can put on a West Coast Guernsey. So I don't like either of those guys in terms of long-term security, but I think that their short-term job security is completely fine. So if you're only looking for guys for this week or the next couple of weeks, that's fine. And realistically, you should only be looking to field them for this week.
Quick shout out to Global as well. I do agree. So for me, Humphrey, I'm in this weird position because I kept Philippou in my team, and I've got Humphrey, and I need them to make up my 18. So I will be going 1 down, 1 up on Humphrey next week to get to Walsh. So that's where if you have Humphrey and you need that one more premium, it's fine to keep him for this week because Walsh isn't playing anyway. If you can't get to the other person you want, if you can't get to a Sarong, if you can't get to an Anderson, etc., then and you need them to play, then they can be in the 1 up, 1 down with your 2 trades next week. Done. Team finished. So I'm with you, Global, on that one. I'm kind of playing the gambling train as far as hoping that he makes his break even or makes enough money, which kind of ties into, just quickly as well, is that Christopher, I don't think he's a genuine F6 option, but he's probably better than Fife at F6, as Chris said, and probably a better cover option. But I think at 400 and something K, he's primed to leave your side.
That's the thing. You kind of need his cash. He's good enough to be a loophole for the rest of the year. The thing is that I've noticed, and I actually saw today someone post this. Someone posted that his role was shit last week. No, his role's been shit for 4 weeks. He just scores really, really well in the role. It hasn't been like he's a forward that pinch hits the midfield, not the other way around. Like, the mid minutes that he gets is minimal, but his impact when he gets forward and gets the ball has been great. So kicking those, he's kicked a goal in every last quarter in the last 4 weeks. So him getting these 90s has just been lucky, because a lot of the time he's on 60, 65 points.
I think he went 66 to 92 one round, and we're like,
Yeah.
whoa, when they beat was it the Dogs?
So,
Yeah, high impact.
not a guy that you'd want on your field if you can avoid it, but a guy that you could definitely have at, say, F7 or F7 M9. Like, I'd be happy with that. But the cash, you kind of need that. I think it's what, 407? Like, I mean, you could one trade him with 13K to Ben Keys, who I would prefer in that role. But then I would say, okay, Keys is a guy that you can sit at F6 100%, but you also wouldn't be upset if you could loophole him with someone too. So that's the difference. So Humphrey's a guy that I have on my bench. Keys is a guy that I have on my field with an option to loop out if I need to. Does that make sense?
Yep, that sounds really good to me. Speaking of budget options, so Keys I think is good if he gets lined up in the midfield this week, then you could probably be
He'll be tagging
fairly
Dacos, guaranteed.
okay. So let's if wherever he goes there for that. So, but I don't mind Keys as an option as well. I also think as well. So quickly here, William Horn-Francis should have got off him last week. Especially, he's not a top or a keeper. I think he's hovering about 450K. He made 100K, and now he's probably dropping because of an absolute crap score. You should have taken the money when you could, when he had that big spike in his stealing that he has. When he gets like a 120, 130, you got to cash out on that one. So definitely get rid of him. And the other option is, well, the cheap option people are looking at the moment is the old Elliot Yo train. So, Chris, I know you're a big non-advocate for the Yo. Is it more body related because he scored really well? His role's been quite solid.
Oh, look, I got into the Yo train, late in the preseason, and I would have ridden that train early. But the thing is, when you're riding it early, you're really only trying to get 6 to 8 weeks out of him maximum before trading him. Whereas now you're looking at, I need this guy for 10 weeks for the rest of the season, and he needs to not have a 1 week injury. That is a very big difference in terms of trading him into your team with that kind of injury risk with low trades. Start of the year, I couldn't care if he got injured in round 2 because I've got 36 trades to be able to get rid of him. Committing to that type of injury risk at this stage of the season, in my opinion, is just an absolute death sentence. Like, I don't know why you would do that. That's too far gone for me. I wouldn't. Oh, as a D7, I'd prefer Himmelberg. I think Himmelberg's the guy that can spike bigger scores if you need to.
Yeah. And it also comes down to if you start to have a bunch of injury issues or suspensions, because that could be very prominent as well this year, then you might end up copping donuts. I remember how I got Kyle Langford was on a heater of 100 for like 6 weeks straight. And I was like, I can't get Aaron Hall because Aaron Hall's injury prone, even though he was a better price in the buy rounds. Aaron Hall played the whole season and Langford got injured. So, you don't want an injury player with no trades either.
And just to highlight, so Nick Dacos, so I highlighted him, I think, in a couple of weeks ago, saying that I think he's going to get a bump in CBAs due to DeGoey being out. And he's held steady. So he actually has had a bump since round 11, about 43%, 40%, and 43% the last 3 weeks. But DeGoey ran out round 12, right? So the theme is that it's been North, West Coast, and then that's when the the suspension happened, and then he maintained against Melbourne. So against these tougher teams, he hasn't actually had that many CBAs. So that potentially holds. The big mover this week has been Jack Crisp. So he went up to 52% in the Pies midfield for CBAs. So he's the one that seems to be covering that along with, say, Nick Dacos. So what do I think Keys does? Wherever Nick Dacos goes, Keys will go. So if that's midfield, he'll be lining up to him at stoppage. If it's from defense, he'll be lining up. And the thing is, I suppose the difference is with Nick Dacos is that we know that he doesn't really play halfback anyway. So Keys isn't going to be playing forward as a half forward. He's going to be playing a midfielder role. He's going to be around the ball. I know that he tagged him early in the season for, I think, like a 60 odd. So I wouldn't be suggesting that Keys would have a good score this week. But I don't think for the rest of the season at his price is still value. I think he goes somewhere between 90 to 100. So I think it's a half decent shout. As F6, like, what are you looking for this stage of the season? Anything else? And there really isn't much unless you can get to Butters. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, if you can get to Butters, great, but not a lot of people can. And I think I looked at the stats. Butters is only in like 20% of the top 1%. And because of his buy, you have to wait till next week to be able to get him. Who's got 600K next week to be able to go and grab Butters? Like, not many people, right?
And if you get a premium this week, like Darcy Cameron, if he goes 100, then that extra 100 points on your total would mean that Butters would have to average 10 points more per game just to actually balance.
To be worth it. And you
which
don't
he
need
might,
that
but then
160K.
Correct. So you don't have to go burn 2 trades to kind of, or one down to then one, or actually waste 1 trade to get the cash in order to then upgrade him. So that's an interesting one. We are getting a lot of questions about, should I keep this rookie? Should I keep that rookie? A bit of a mix as far as like some premiums. We might get into some premiums a little bit later. Also on the chats as well, because of the tough situation that is this week, we're getting lots of messages. We can't reply to every single message saying, hey, I prefer this rookie on your field instead of the other one. You're just going to have to start making some good judgments because it is a difficult week for a lot of people. And at the moment, we're kind of trying to express some strategies around it to then back yourself in. So whether it's
if you need specific stuff's pretty hard.
So if you need to have someone in your 18, if you need a rookie to be part of your 18 to field 18 this week, right? So you can try and upgrade around those who aren't playing to then get your 18. So for instance, for me, I've got Filippo and I've got Humphrey and I've got 16 playing at the moment. So I actually need to upgrade around them to pick up 2 places. So I can't afford to lose them. So if you have 18 already, or they are your 17th and 18th, then yes, you can upgrade those rookies because they're not going to matter in your best 18 for the week. So that's where it all comes down to. As far as trying, should I free up cash on, Mitchell, Van Ruin, or any of these other rookies, whoever makes you the most cash to get you the best premium, I would probably just go with, because rookie roulette's already there anyway. So you might as well free up the most cash. Speaking of the most cash though, Chris, because we already spoke about briefly anyway. So Dev Robertson, 218K, very expensive if you're trying to free up cash. You've got Sheldrick, who just went up 31K with 190K as a forward and mid option. Now, here's one I want your opinion on: is Harvey Harrison.
He won't be named this week, buddy.
You reckon he's played 2 in a row? Who did he come in for?
He's played good. He came in for Jamie Elliott, who actually should have played the King's birthday game, but they just held him out to give him an extra week and then the extra week off again.
Okay, because he's one of the most traded in players, which is funny.
Yeah, no, he won't play. I would say that the chances of him getting named were 5%. So I wouldn't even be looking at him.
Unless Marek, if you don't have him, I think will play for West Coast. So that's a good one if you didn't go early to free up maximum cash. Otherwise, we kind of need a Hail Mary or some luck to get a cheap rookie named probably for the week.
I heard Constable is getting named this week, isn't he?
No, he gets named every week. That's a baloney. Don't come here with your bloody Dr. Supercoach merch from top to bottom. You probably got the Dr. Supercoach cock ring on too. We just can't see it. And come and spit in that kind of blasphemy.
Fair enough. Fair call.
Sorry, Chizo. I don't know if that's a real thing. Is it? Maybe you could branch out.
So Oisin Mullen has been announced that he's fit to play. However, there's no guarantee he obviously gets named. So we'll have to see what that sort of looks like.
Who's the flog, Swizz? Chris or me?
His point.
Was that because of the cock ring joke? You're calling me a flog, right? Anyway, sorry. Yes.
Ben Bailey says that apparently. Hold on, I'll show you this.
Constable's concussed.
Constable's concussed. Unlucky.
That is very, very, very unlucky.
Oh well. So Harry Sharp's getting named this week, boys.
Jesus.
Well, Matt Roberts comes back early. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
It's very, very interesting. So that looks like we need a little bit of rookie luck this week. I mean, the other alternative. So where are you at on, let's say, Sheldrick and let's say Windhager, because they are slightly cheaper than Robertson, who I think Robertson probably could keep his gig as well. Where are we at? Are we spending 190K to 200K?
I think if you're choosing any of them for long-term cover, you're probably playing the game wrong. Yeah, only need, if you're needing a guy for 1 week, get the guy that's the cheapest that you think is going to be the best for 1 week. And
or trade out a premium for a premium.
Yeah.
You might as well.
Option.
You may as well just trade out a premium.
Unless his name's Ollie Wines, because he's going to the mood, 130 average over the next 5 weeks. You watch it.
Jesus, yeah, he's definitely he's going to cash you in well, but you'd be better off.
Should have been 140. Missed that goal from like 15 meters out in the last quarter. What is he doing? Come on, Wines.
But you'd be better off kind of almost keeping the cash or the other covers you've got, and then just sidewaysing a premium, because again, if they score 100 this week, then that's 10 points more per game that they're going to have to actually pick up on the run home. So it'd be 100, actually more. It'd be 100 points over 9 rounds, which is more.
People looking to upgrade because they've got, say, a forward, for example, right? So they need to go down somewhere to get cash to be able to go up, right? So here's the problem, right? So all those three guys, so between Sheldrick and Dev Rob and Windhager, not one of them has good long-term job security. They all have shit long-term job security. So if you are looking to get them to generate cash and it's going to make you enough and you only want scores for a week, great. I'd choose whoever's playing West Coast. One of them's playing West Coast, right? What's the I think it might be Sydney play West Coast, maybe. Who's playing West Coast this week, guys?
West Coast this week. It is. Let me have a look. West Coast.
So
Sydney.
Yeah. So I would say if Sheldrick gets named this week, that's the one that I would be picking up just for the 1 week. So again, I mean, Marriage is fine, but I think in terms of points, if you don't need the cash, again, this is only if you don't need the cash. Now, that's a lot of cash. So 120K to not have Marriage, I'd rather have Marriage. If that's going to get you a better premium, it's going to net more points over the long term. However, if you don't need the cash, if cash isn't an issue for your team, then I'm happy with getting a Sheldrick this week, just for the 1 week only. Again, you're only looking at this for 1 week. They have bad job security, all three of them. I wouldn't be relying on them for the rest of the season. And just remember who else you're pairing those with. So again, I saw a midfield. Binger, this is your midfield earlier today. So he was looking at trading out Matty Johnson and then bringing in Sheldrick. So Matty Johnson probably has the best job security of the rookies that we do have, right?
And you free up absolutely bugger all cash too. What,
yeah,
70,
but
80K? Like
to
not
be able
much.
to. He still needed the cash, right, to be able to make the upgrade. But let's just say this is an example, right? So then he has, I think he had Dev Rob and then Sheldrick or whatever it may be, and then Matty Roberts, or like a basically a guaranteed donor at the moment, right? So you've Dev Rob, his job security is just as bad. There's every chance that you've paid 180K or 200K for these rookies over the last 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks' time, that neither of them are there, and you don't have them for the rest of the season.
And then you're looking at 250K, kind of like what I did with Clark from Richmond, and then just crying into an empty bucket.
Pretty much.
Like you're looking at that cash on the bench going, why am I not using that better? Why am I playing Steele when I've got 250K in equity sitting on the bench doing nothing? Like there's nothing more painful.
And you can't trade out of it because you don't have the trades. So so that's just the warning that I would give people if they're looking at that. Again, it will work for some teams, but I don't think it works for every team, and that's just something you need to be aware of. I personally wouldn't this stage of the season. I'm not looking for that. And if you're just looking for 1 week scoring, like there just has to be a better way to structure your team, and there's a better way to make up the points over the back end of the season, in my opinion. Like there can't be a situation where you get Sheldrick and you desperately need his 60 or 70 points that it totally impacts you for the rest of the season. Unless they really burn you. Yeah.
Just captain better.
Unless they burn you and like go 100 plus, and then you're really sort of stretching to try and make those points up over the back end of the year. But I don't think it's really worth putting that extra trade in for 1 week of scoring.
Yeah, it's not like a Briggs scenario where you should definitely have been on. I can't believe I didn't do that. Every time I look like I'm making ground, I miss a Weddle, I miss a Briggs, and then sliding back we go. It's literally the bane of my existence this year. The other thing to note as well, like so last week I had 19 already. I didn't need to downgrade. I saved my trades, and then those three rookies who were quite reasonably priced at 150 to 175K or 180K all went quite well, except for the Bulla Vanaka, the old Fijian, didn't do well with his subbed on. What was it, 17, Chris?
17. Like, look, I think that was a bit. Don't get me wrong. I went in with it knowing that it could be as low as that or even worse. But they basically threw him to the Lions then, legitimately. Like, Lions aren't too shabby in defense. And the way that they entered the 50 for that first three quarters was absolutely atrocious. Like, Sydney would just bomb it long to a contest. And it wasn't even a contest that Jack Buller was at. Like, he had no chance in that game. It was rough scenes. Let's just put it that way.
Slight caution over the Windhager as well. So I know he did have the most CBAs, but I believe, and Swizz could probably back this up in the chat, he was pretty much following around Taranto, or Taranto was leading him to the ball and still beating him to the ball. So he did score an 85, and his price is quite good. but a little bit of caution there. So he was playing more of a try to be a negating role. I do know that Lions sent him back to the VFL to try and work on some other parts of his game because he wasn't happy with the outside work, I guess he was doing. But they are playing Brisbane this week, so it is possible he could actually go on to Neil as well. I don't know if he's the guy for you. So yes, the CBAs are a great tick and people's eyes light up. It's like, but why was he in there? Right? You've also
There's
got
also the fact that he was out for Hunter Clark, basically. Hunter Clark's back in 2 to 4 weeks, and Jack Billings and Zach Jones are both tests for this week. Now, I think Zach Jones probably comes back through the VFL. What do they do with Billings? They kind of need him.
Trade him for Bontempelli.
I mean, where does Jack Billings play as well? Like, does he come back and play on the wing, or and then how does that impact the team, or does he come in and play forward early on? Like, I don't know these questions, but what I know is there's 3 best 22 players due back within 2 weeks that are all midfielders. So yeah,
Arnie, I'm gonna say RIP, mate. 4 trades and 2 primos to go. I think you're probably going to have to keep at least. You're going to have to keep at least one of those 2, maybe both, because 4 trades is skimping. Or for me, I'd probably actually hold Humphrey and hope Mills drops enough cash to kind of sideways with whatever cash you got.
Or just, I mean, just see. Here's what you could do: you go Humphrey to Keys. You got a premium. You keep Ashcroft to loop off your pine, and if when he hits his tons at the Gabba or whatever, you can still get some advantage there. I mean, you still have 3 trades left and be able to try and maximize it. I don't think that's the worst. I'd rather have Keys than Humphrey. Again, I think I've said this earlier. I'd rather have Keys than Humphrey. And for one trade, I think that's an actual beneficial move. So that's my personal opinion. Other people are different. Some people hate Keys. So
Bing is upset with me now. Be quiet, Ben. Quiet. Quiet. It's the Talisker. It's got this rum cask. It's just bringing the inside out here. Yeah, the global man, I feel you for that one. So that's the rookie part of it. Now let's go with some of these premiums that you're on the brink for.
Thanks, mate.
The 0.1 DPP.
So did you see on Twitter today that Tim Mitchell said that Gawn is actually sitting at 34.4%?
Gone backwards.
For round 18. Yeah, so he's gone down a little bit, but he's still a chance at DPP. Round 18. I don't know if I kind of think that if you had Gawn, then you must have got Briggs, and then Gawn is gone next week. Like, there's no chance that he's outlasting Briggs. I think Briggs has a 5-round average of 116. There is no way anyone's holding Gawn longer than next week. He's gone.
I didn't get Briggs, and I've still got Gawn, so I'm riding that train to the very end. Because I was like, I don't need ruck cover for 1 round. Why? And I was triggered by the Clark scenario where I spent 220K or whatever it was on a premium to be smarter or whatever it was. So I wasn't expecting him to just keep going bang, bang, bang. Same as Weddle, just bang, bang, bang. So that's why I said bane of my existence. Premiums wise now. So are you by any chance worried about Sarong and the injury history there? If you could pick up, let's say 2 people per line that have already had their bye outside of Rucks, because Rucks are dead already. 2 premiums that have already had their bye from each line outside of the token ones, like Sicily's, etc.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, what would you be going?
Weller? No. First of all, in defense, I wouldn't pick up anyone. I don't like any of them.
They suck,
Sinclair,
right? That's the issue.
Sinclair and Lloyd, but I don't like Lloyd anymore. Sinclair did play well last week. I just don't think, like, in years gone past, they would be top 6, but they're probably not really. I think that the best other 2 are Doherty and Houston, unfortunately. So they both have the round 15 bye, and so if you can try and stretch it to then, I think that they're the best 5th and 6th options. But I don't like.
See, I think defense is so bad that you can probably then afford to keep a
Sheasel, JZ.
Well, you could just keep them because they're not that much worse than D6. Yeah. So if you have one of them, I think you're almost just better off trying to keep them and then try to go elsewhere, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
So midfield?
I've looked at this extensively because I've looked at trying to flip Wines to a premium that's going to be worth it. And I just have question marks over all of them. And the problem is, so I can't afford to go Uber. So you're sort of riding out Oliver and Petraka in this sort of situation. But yeah, they would be ideal if you could grab them. They're fairly low owned still, especially I think Oliver was down to like 23% at last check. Did I just pop out there for a second, or did you just? I don't even know what
I
you
was
did.
trying to give you your own screen, and then I removed you. I clicked the remove button. What an amateur!
Sarong and Brayshaw. So Sarong has obviously gone down a little bit in scoring since the ankle issue, I believe it is. So I don't really love that, especially at his price. Brayshaw, I don't mind back to back. What's he back to back 107s? I've just been on the Brayshaw train and I hate it. Like he just has to do so much to get a decent score. Like I feel like he's just pumping everything he has into it, and I can't do it, Captain. I do it half the power. I suppose if you don't have Neil, then he's an obvious choice. That's probably the number one, I would say.
Was it Saints, Richmond, West Coast, I think, coming up as well. So midfields he could probably dominate.
Yeah. I mean, outside of that, I mean, I'd almost go as far to say, like, if to go was off his buy, that's probably the cheap option that I would suggest. You could also look at, I mean, LDU next week. Mills might be named this week. There's that option there too. I mean,
so Mills will get down to 420, 450K too.
Yeah.
If you wait a week on it.
With an unknown role, but if you gave him a couple of weeks, Merritt, if you don't have him, but I think that he's like, probably one of the most highly owned. I'd take a Parish at 105 average. Like I'd take him at 105 with potential upside over, say, a Sarong at 600. What's Sarong at now? 580?
No, he's less now. He was 605 and then dropped. So
I don't mind Parish, but because I think he does play this week. Could you go a Kelly?
So would you go Parish over an Anderson though?
Kelly's role changed, flipped to a wing. No, see the thing with Anderson and Rowell that I've got Rowell, so yeah, Tukes back in. They said 3 to 4. So from this week 3 to 4, what does that make it? Round 17, round 18, or round 18, round 19?
Where are you at? It's round 15 now, righto? Yep.
Yeah, so that's at round 18, round 19. So 3 to 4.
Okay,
that's
no, you said 17 first. Anyway, go on, go. Yep.
So yeah, so do you really want like a 3-week bump and then unknown scoring ability on the back end? I don't know.
Dude, Sarong's 574 now. It's 574 for Sarong. That's not bad.
Yeah, and he probably has a high break even, right, as well. What's his break even?
Break even doesn't matter, mate. Doesn't matter. Break even of 138.
Yeah, so it does matter if you're looking at, okay, well, it's him versus someone else for next week. But I suppose that's coming off the bye. I suppose you gain the points this week, which probably offsets that anyway. Yeah, the midfield I don't love as well for upgrade targets. Again, like I think most of the good ones that I would look at are probably off next week. Same with the forward line. Like I'd look at McRae next week. I'd look at Butters next week. Those are the two best options by an absolute mile. And then everyone else is supplementary to that. But you've got DCAM there, which most people are jumping on this week because at least you have ruck cover. And then it's slim pickings. That's what I mean. Keys comes in at that sort of available, going to play this week, good price. Role is questionable, but 3 weeks of good scoring. He has a 3-round average of, he's had 2 300s in a row, hasn't he, Ben Keys? And a 115 last week.
I think it's about 3. I picked him up after his first one. I think I've had 2 more in draft since. So
we'd have like a 107 3-round average or something like that for a forward. Like you could do a lot worse.
Yep. So again, this comes down to, I know we'd prefer a lot of these players that have the current buy. But again, if you're playing for overall, if you're playing for league, it doesn't matter. You can just get whoever you want, whenever you want. And all you're going to do is lose a round if you happen to lose a round. Right. So you'd have a look at your opponent and then you would sort of go, oh, hey, they're actually losing more people than me this week. You could just upgrade. Right. That's how you would kind of sort of go around it. But again, it comes down to let's say Darcy Cameron scores 100 points for this week. And you're going to, you thought, hey, I'll just get McRae next week. Right. And I'm going to hold out. I'm not going to get Darcy Cameron. I'm going to get McRae next week. I'm going to spend the extra money. So again, that's if he scores 100 for this week and every other week for, let's say, Darcy Cameron, then McRae would have to average 111.1 just to come out with the exact same Supercoach points. So that's the big advantage on if you're playing a rookie and you're playing 19 with that scenario, then you would have to take off whichever rookie you scored off that scenario.
here's the problem with that. Like that is obviously the risk every single week. With any Dogs player is that Magneto was at his absolute finest the last couple of weeks. So McRae dropped to 0 CBAs. So he went on this string of having CBAs, and then he went 39 in round 12, 39% in round 12, 3% in round 13, and 0% in round 14. So yeah. And Caleb Daniel dropped out of the midfield rotations and then went back in this week. What is Bevo, man? And Treloar has gone 82, 84, 81% last 3 weeks. So what is he trying to do? Just basically stretch him out until he does another hammy? Like, I think Libba's, and this is why I highlighted this chat, Libba's the one that his role hasn't changed all season, and it just seems like he's just going to be the number one, number two. Basically, him and Bont is going hell for leather, and then everyone else is trying to basically compete for that third premium mid spot at the Dogs. So I don't mind Libba again if you're waiting a week. I think he's probably one of the best options that's out there. Super consistent, but again, the price is it's there to match. So.
Yeah, who are these people that have cash to burn? Absolutely crazy. Yeah, I mean, or you go, I mean, on the flip side too, what would you rather? Would you rather like Clary and a Keys or a cheaper option, or, like a double down on a Sarong and an Anderson kind of type? Looking at price brackets.
Yeah.
Are you better off kind of splitting them or going one heavy, one light?
Yeah. Well, the problem is one of those is a forward. So can you get that as a forward? Then I don't think so. Like, I think so if you don't have like a Goulden or something like that, then Goulden's like at a half decent price right now. You could definitely jump on a Goulden and say a Anderson or something like that, and then or a Goulden and a Clary, and then that'd be awesome, right? But there's not enough decent options at decent prices in the forward line to make that a valid thing. If you're looking at upgrading 2 mids, then I can understand the concept of let's go 2 cheaper mids instead of 1 Uber and then 1, say, I don't know, you can't even get a decent mid under 500k, can you? Like, well, an LDU or something like that, stretching to get a guy like that.
Yep.
Or a Mills.
And Walsh,
like
Walsh is probably your best bet to get close. Yeah, Walsh is probably your best bet to get close. LDU has a lot of potential, but do you really want to go there and get burnt after an injury? Steele is under 500k, boys. Can we even talk about Steele? Like, and how was it? Had knee issues and then come out. He's been horrible. Had a good round. Everyone's like, oh, yay. He was meant to be dropped this, like not play this week, comes out with an awesome score. And everyone's thinking, how great's this? How happy are we that he actually got up and persevered and then gone crap. Like, literally painful. Now has what, Achilles soreness or something, like something else going on. It's literally, yeah. I guess you could hold him. Here's my dilemma with Mills. With Steele. Now, for his price, he's kind of priced similarly to like Sheasel, etc. And I know some people are looking at getting off Sheasel or Zeeble or all the rest of it. Well, I'm like, who's going to average you more? Like, if Steele can get it together, he should at least average you 100. And at that price, you're kind of just keeping him anyway for the sake of a trade.
Yeah, I mean,
if you have if you have trades up your sleeve, then you just burn them for hell and say see you later.
Yeah, right? You're holding this week, I think, regardless.
And he plays anyway. But his break even's so big now.
I don't think it matters. I think there's nothing you can really do about it.
Well, it matters if you're getting rid of him.
Yeah, but who to?
Time is money. Well, anyone that's better. That's what I'm saying. Is in it's people are looking to just rage trade.
Well, if you've got cash to get him out, then sure, because it's worth getting him out to someone else. But there's no really one to get him to. That's the thing. So you kind of got to hold him at least this week, and then just hope that either he comes good, or you can somehow at some point get him back to a decent price. You can sideways him. Like, are you really using 2 trades to get rid of Jack Steele? That's the issue. Is like, I don't think you really want to do that. And then, like, for people to say, oh, I've got 150 in the bank, I can get him to someone else. Yeah, but how did you get that 150k?
Yeah, you burned a trade.
Yeah, exactly right.
And then if you use that 150k to upgrade him, then you're going to have to use another trade to then upgrade someone else anyway. So then you're burning the extra trade. So it's 2 trades.
Yeah, I was really disappointed with Steele this week because, like, yeah, I have. And this draw's awesome, right?
So good.
So the thing with Steele to me is I watched that game and I was like, is Jack Steele even playing? I couldn't tell where he was playing. I couldn't tell where he was in the park. I kept looking to see if he was on the bench because I just didn't know where he was. Like, where was he on the field? Was he playing wing? Was he playing on the ball? I couldn't physically see him. It was pissing down. There was contests everywhere all over the park, and I couldn't see Jack Steele. It was a big issue, man. So I would 100% be getting off him if I could, if I had the trades, if I had the money. I'd be trying to do it, but yeah, no, it's not. I'm glad that I'm not on the train.
I think sometimes he actually wasted energy because he'd kind of the ball go over his head and then he'd start working his way down, hoping for a contest, and then literally there'd be ping pong back the other way, and then he'd kind of work his way back down towards that, and then it would go back over his head again. So I think there was about 2 or 3 kicks where I saw him kind of get near the contest. One of his teammates would pick it up and just literally not offload it because it's wet and just roost it straight past him, and then back he goes down that way, and then they kick it, and he's like, "Oh, just following the ball."
Yeah, but that's a problem with fitness then, because the ability. So midfielders are midfielders because they have the tank to be able to get to contest without being in that transition period. So they need to be able to move the next contest before the ball moves on, so they can be part of that next chain and then next contest. And I just didn't see him. So if he's stuck in the middle the whole time, that's because he's not able to get to the next contest, and that's an issue.
Or bad decision making and actually not making a decision and just staying in the middle. Whee!
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I think we're all in the same boat that if you can get rid of him, great, but you can't really trade him this week if you're just going to sideways him anyway, and you need the points on field. So, I mean, who are these people?
Anyway? Who are these people with all these? They're playing Brisbane this week. At the was it not Metricon? Bloody
at Marvel. I mean, this is Marvel.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah, but the good news is they do have West Coast after that, Melbourne, but then they have Gold Coast, North Hawks, Carlton, Richmond. So they do have a pretty good draw anyway for midfielders after that anyway.
Yeah. So how many are you running on the field this week likely?
I'm going to get to 18. Beg, crawl, or, trade. I need to try and stay relevant. So I'm sitting at like 5,000 overall. And I think this is where there'll be a lot of competition that won't get 18. So I've got 16 at the moment, but that includes Filippo and it includes Humphrey. So they're in my plans. I plan to probably trade out a rookie, try and maybe see if I can get in Darcy Cameron with one of those rookies, and then make a move next week and go Humphrey to hopefully Walsh. And that's my team done. 18.
Yeah, makes sense.
With Johnson and Chesser, right? Hopefully Johnson gets up.
Oh, Chesser, fuck, that's 17, mate. don't say me the Chessers.
How about that last week though? Here I am thinking, I'm going to save my trades. I'm not going to go Robertson. I'm not going to go Milliken. I'm not going to go Sheldrick. I've got 19. That's fine. I can afford to lose one. Next minute it was like Fife crap, Ford crap, Steele crap, and I was like, damn it, 2 crap scores on my field. And F the tribunal.
Yeah, which was good for me, actually. It worked out well in my favor because I bridged the gap on the other big players. But so I'm probably actually going to be 17. I had planned with 18 with Sicily on the field, but I actually plan now to have that 0. So
you're not trading Sicily and you're keeping a 0?
Yeah. So I will be bringing Himmelberg next week to cover him for the next 2 weeks. And then Sicily will push Himmelberg to D7. So
you must bank on the fact that you can bridge the point loss this week for having a loophole player, a cover player, and then the fact that Sicily will average you more than whoever else you'll bring in anyway to bridge that gap.
I think that over the course of the next 10 weeks, I'll make up the points by having an extra player, either by looping or covering a 1 week injury or vice versa. I think I'll make the points up. I don't think it's worth. The thing is, like, if I'm trading Sicily, I'm like, and here's the thing: if there was a good enough player to trade him to, like, I can't trade him to the midfield because I already have a full midfield. So I'm either trading him. I can trade him to a forward player, but I want DCAM for long-term cover. So realistically, I only have to trade him to a defender. So if I'm trading him out, I'm trading him to Lloyd. I'm not interested. And what's Lloyd going to pump out for me this week? Who knows? I'm not interested in playing that game with Lloyd. I'm not interested in trying to get Ryan or some other shitty premium and then he's just going to. I actually think that the difference in points just from Sicily over the last 7 rounds will bridge that gap, let alone the extra I'll get from having that 23rd player.
Yeah.
Because the pickings are so slim in the defensive line.
Yep. The only way around that would be if you didn't have, say, Dawson or Sinclair would probably be the only tempting. If you didn't have one of those two, you might be more tempted.
Yeah, if I didn't have, say, a Dawson, or if I didn't have a Stewart, or if I didn't have a Dacos, I would 100% trade, because those
Yep.
other guys are going to they're guaranteed top four pretty much. But I'm bringing in two defenders next week, so I'm bringing in Himmelberg and Houston. So Houston will come in as a permanent D6, and Himmelberg will play on field for 2 weeks while Sicily serves his suspension, and then he'll be a rotating 23rd player.
Yep.
That
Yep.
I'll probably end
And
up
the
moving forward to Loophole with Keys.
and the Loophole is so underrated. Like last year, I think I picked up, was it Heaney for super cheap, like maybe 400 flat or 380 or whatever he got to. And in the end, I was taking Heaney's score instead of Will Brody, because he started pumping out a couple of 60s, and then Heaney went on this like ton run of like 100, 100, 100, 100, which is probably why I end up getting a nice little boost in ranks on the back end of the year. So if someone does miss for a week, then you have them as an option. Now, that's where we come into, you can spend all your money on trying to get the best premium, or you can actually look for the value and then have a loophole to actually try and bridge that gap elsewhere, or have that loophole option too. If someone plays early, you just put the E on them. And if they're highly owned and they do poorly, then all of a sudden you're sitting there going, yeah, I can actually make up some big points here because everyone's got them on field, and I can now play this other person that will get me more than 60, etc. So that's the consideration. That's where the value really does come into it. And
Yeah,
it's
and
all
like
situational.
Sicily, for example, is I think right now 20 points per game clear of that next D6 option. Like that's a large amount. So yeah, I'm completely comfortable with the decision. I made it 2 weeks ago, so I'm completely comfortable. And in the off chance that he obviously, if I wanted to trade him, it was the time to trade him was last week. It's now past. If I really really need to, then hopefully like a rookie comes in from nowhere. But I'm not really worried. I'm not fussed. And this week I'm definitely not fussed, because this is the week that most people will struggle to have 18 on field, and you don't need a huge score this week to be competitive. Like I think if you were somewhere between 18 to 1900, will be a fairly competitive score, and I shouldn't see my rank drop too much. I think I will drop outside the top K, but I'll have a really good team heading towards the rest of the season.
Interesting. Alrighty.
That's
I think probably last couple of comments here, and I think we'll wrap it up there. So it's just splitting hairs at this current point in time. So global here, thoughts on Buzlanka. I think the ups and downs with their roles, etc. But as a forward for 450k, I mean, he's not bad value. I'd probably rather decam though for the cover. Chris, are
Yeah,
you tempted
he's
by
a
the
forward
mullet?
playing forward. Nah, not. Again, if Magneto was to go, oh, we're going to play him on the wing again. Oh, we're going to play him inside again. Then maybe,
He
but
went
no, not.
negative meters for a whole game.
Yeah, which is
Meters
unlikely.
gained. I don't know if you saw, but he was actually outrunning laps after the game finished, which I thought was probably a good thing. Maybe, wasn't happy with the amount of meters he gained negatives, but yeah, maybe could have worked harder, or maybe just general base he needed to actually work a bit more. But yeah, he was running laps after the game on the
Yeah, I
oval.
mean, it looks good to see Bailey Smith on your field as at F6. It looks bad once you start watching him play and realize his role is absolutely shot to pieces. So,
But
yeah,
good news
not
was
interested.
he looked still quite fit and fresh. Chris, he didn't look like he was laxy daisy. He wasn't all over the shop. He pretty much stayed right on that white line and just went for it.
Well, sorry, I don't know if you were doing a pun then, but
He was all over the white line there.
okay, that was good. Okay, it wasn't just me. One thing I will say is that the amount of injuries that the Dogs just did cop. So Tim O'Brien, Hayden Crozier, and Jones are all long-term injuries. Now that is I see Caleb Daniel moving back into defence, and that could open up a midfield spot. However, that could go to McRae, it could go to Baz, it could go to freaking McLean. Man, who knows? Man, trying to guess Bevo is just, it's
Poulter.
not really worth it.
Poulter might finally
Well,
get a gig, and
onto a
he
wing,
could.
yeah.
Well, apparently in VFL he was playing halfback, I think. So people were talking about wing, but he was doing some work and training, I believe, at halfback. So he could be one to actually go and
Poulter.
pull. I know, right? For the Spanish friends at home, the only Spanish word I know.
Anyway,
Good
that's
one.
pretty much it. Hey guys, I think we've.
I think
Is
that
there anything
is.
that Swizz wanted to write in his comment section to?
Oh, VC and C, we have forgot. That's
Oh yeah.
Swizz's favorite section. The
Um,
VC and C.
obviously, if you, I don't know if you'd want to just throw a VC on Clary, but he has the Friday night game, same with Track, so those are both decent options, but not a lot, not really highly owned. With Windhager, does he go to Neil or does he go to Dunkley? Because Dunkley's in form. If Dunkley goes to Steele and ragdolls him, it could be another Dunkley big win again.
How tall is Windhager though? Because that could be a
I
big
don't.
deciding factor.
He's wide. I think he might be as wide as he is tall. The guy's a
I think he's
freaking
quite
unit.
tall, isn't he? He looks tall.
Yeah,
He
he
is
looks big.
185 though, so he's 7 centimeters shorter. So 185 centimeters. I don't know if he's going to Dunkley.
Well, yeah. So if the matchup then is Neil, then I probably wouldn't go Neil. I would probably VC Dunks in that spot on the Friday night. That's probably, and look, he's on an absolute heater, so you kind of got to ride it until he jumps off. He's now averaging 123. He's on his way to averaging more than Bont, which is just crazy when you think he's in with a shot of still being the number one Supercoach player for this year. So
Yeah, that
crazy,
was
man.
your projection, wasn't it, at the start of the year? You must have
Yeah.
been packing it after getting him. I guess he slipped to, was it pick 3 in draft, and
I
then you're
haven't
sitting
looked at
going,
draft in 3 weeks. I don't know why. Probably should
so
do. Okay, see where am I
you're not
losing
you're not
games?
doing well. That's where I am doing well this year. I'm putting all my thoughts and processes into that. I've actually changed my name to was it the waiver watcher or something? Because I've just been absolutely just picking up left, right, and center.
Yeah,
It's pretty much where it's at. And for share that because you are wearing the Dr. Supercoach gear tonight.
I am.
I'm in their Div 1 league. I think we have 16 people with I think 18 players or something or other. So it's pretty sketchy. And I think I'm coming with Chizo. We both got a bump in the rankings and we're both in the top sort of 8 to 10 out of that. The bottom two get kicked back to second div. So holding on to Div 1 on that one, boys.
Nice.
So VCNC for me, let's have a quick look. Goulden, are you looking at Goulden by any chance against West Coast as a VC?
No, his role's been up and down, man. Like if you want to VC him, great, but I don't know that there's a good captain option after that game anyway. I mean, nah, I wouldn't be trusting that. I couldn't
Laird
captain him.
against Collingwood.
Yeah.
That's
Is
probably
it?
the major one. 110 on a Sunday, and then VC, Merritt, Sarong, Neil, Goulden, Clary.
I
And
mean,
then if
maybe
you have
even.
Laird, I think you'd go there.
Yeah, I think that Laird is probably the most comfortable on those. I mean, I've got a Row and I'm not comfortable captaining him, obviously, against Hawks or anything like that. With Sicily out, I mean, there really isn't much in the back end there. The problem with Goulden is his role over the last 2 weeks has been all over the shop. So 2 weeks ago, Lloyd moved to the wing. Goulden played basically forward all game until the last quarter, and they threw him in there to try and change things up. Didn't work. Last week, his role was a little bit better. Got a decent score out of it, but you can't trust on a week-to-week basis what his role's going to be, and so for that reason, I just can't do it. Even though he's playing West Coast, not as a captain option. If you want to VC him, that's fine. But
yeah, I trust his role better than I trust West Coast in general.
yeah.
So I mean, it's like, hey, what's the risk? He goes 180, like maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even really love say Laird and Dawson versus obviously a restrictive Collingwood midfield at the G. He's not the greatest captain option, but I think that I've got so much faith in Dunkley that it just doesn't matter. I don't think I'll probably need it, but yeah, for me that's the play. Unless you've got Clary or Track, then you can go VC those into Dunkley, which is probably the best option. Yeah, I mean Briggs isn't playing this week, so we don't have our perma captain option.
Oh, Swizz, what do you got? I see you got Goulden VC question mark. Is that where you're sort of heading, or are you going elsewhere?
Oh, he's riding.
Who's got the charger, bro? Can you eat the charger? I just want to say hello. Natasha Corner.
Hey, Natasha.
Bro, can you eat the charger? I just want to say hello. Who's that for?
Maybe it's an autocorrect. One of his many followers, the 1%.
Yeah, one of the 1%. Stewart into Dunkley considered. Oh, Swizz is saying that. Is that for you, Swizz? Swizz, get your own
Oh,
DMs,
yeah.
mate. Just because you got a house now. So yeah, someone also said Stewart here. So look, that's it. Matt's sort of talking about Stewart down in Geelong. Definitely consideration. I mean, Melbourne forwards a possibility, but Stewart, Stewart's gone that 150 game 2 to 3 times a year. It just might be this time. So
And
it's up to you.
GMHBA is a nice little fixture, but yeah, Melbourne obviously. We'll see. Don't love that.
I think that's it.
I think Geelong might get up a bit of a pantsing tomorrow night. So we'll see.
Interesting. The other one was I do agree with Jono Anderson against Hawks. I think is probably the one that probably won't get as much attention. But again, it's a big risk reward. He could go you 90, he could go you 170, but he's probably due for a big game.
Connor Nash tag.
You reckon he does? Not Rail?
Yeah.
Rail just goes to Nash?
Connor Nash. Connor Nash will take him. Anderson's 192 centimeters. There's no doubt in my mind Connor Nash goes.
Oh, okay, because Nash is a tallie as well. And trying to limit the impact, I guess. So whereas Rail's just inside bull, so someone else can just get
Jai Newcomb will go head to head with. Yeah, Jai Newcomb,
Okay, done. Thanks, boys. This is interesting. The StreamYard. I quite like being able to highlight a few of these chats as well. Something a little different. We thought if we're paying for it, we might as well get the good stuff, if you know what I mean. But that's it from us. Talk soon. You guys are doing are you doing a team pod as well this week?
Yeah, well, I've got to catch up from last week. I didn't have time to do mine. I will be doing it probably tomorrow, so.
I am overdue, and I might do mine with the team announcement possibly Thursday before bounce. I am overdue. So let's just go with that. That's it, boys. Thank you very much for those who have hanging around. Thanks as well. See how I can export this to SoundCloud. I don't know. We'll see how we go. Talk to you later. Bye.
See you guys.